If parachutes only open 50% of the time, people wouldn't go skydiving. People enter into marriage every single day by the thousands. And 50% of those parachutes are not going to open, and they're going to end up putting some lawyer's kids through college because it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get out of it. And then you're going to be bitter and angry for the rest of your life. When you are in that euphoric state of romantic love, it's like you're high. And I mean really, really high on a psychoactive drug that affects your hormones and your thinking and all of it. And when you're considering getting married, you are literally getting ready to make the biggest decision in your life while you are thoroughly more intoxicated than you have ever been. Yet, we do it every day. What most people don't recognize is that marriage is a legal contract. It's a legally binding relationship that guarantees another person a significant part of your real property and your potential earnings for the rest of your life. So this is not a relationship to take lightly. This is one you need to consider very, very seriously. If you were getting ready to buy a business, you would have a lawyer look at it. If you're getting ready to buy a house, you've got professionals who are helping you do that. But people walk into marriage without giving it a second thought. And it's a very, very serious legal agreement. And you need to look at it that way. It's not just, oh, I love you and I think you're sweet and wonderful. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Well, you can do that without a legal contract, okay? You don't need to be legally married in order to have a great relationship with somebody. The first thing you need to consider is, why do you want to get married? You know, there's this idea that if something really great happens in our lives, that we're suddenly going to go from being unhappy to being happy. How many rich people do you know who are unhappy? And the reason they're unhappy is because they were unhappy before they got rich. The same is true of marriage. It doesn't matter who you're marrying. It matters why you're getting married. If you're unhappy being single, getting married is not going to make you happy. Trust me. Marriage is not a panacea to your loneliness or for your need for companionship. You need to be a self-sustaining, complete human being before you take that step into marriage. Otherwise, it's likely to end badly for you. All right, guys, this one's aimed specifically at you. So I know a lot of guys get into marriage thinking, hey, this is going to be great. I'm with this beautiful girl. I love her so much. We're going to have sex all the time. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You are deluding yourself. The sex is part of the euphoria you feel when you first meet somebody. That euphoria is going away. In a few years, that euphoria will be a distant, fond memory. And your access to regular sex is going to disappear, usually within 3 to 5 years. So don't get married for the sex. That's not what you're going to get from this. In fact, if you guys decide that you're going to have children, you're really going to be coworkers. You're going to be handling some of the duties, she's going to be handling other duties. This is not a romantic relationship. This is like, building a deck or something. It's just not conducive to romance. It just isn't. Yeah, there's a lot of great things that go along with it. I mean, I'm not knocking it at all, but just get clear about what you're getting into. This has nothing to do with romance. It's ironic that romance gets you into this relationship, but the relationship itself has very little romance involved. Now, maybe I'm being too general. Maybe there are some guys out there, some relationships out there that are romantic for 50 years. I assume that's a possibility. But I've not seen it. I've not seen it in anyone. Since I started training guys, I talk to guys of all ages and all marital statuses and length of time being married. And I can tell you, I have not met a guy that's like super happy married for more than a few years. After that time, a lot of the complaints sound pretty much the same, regardless of whether you've been married for 10 years or 50 years. Everybody's kind of got the same complaints. Let's talk a little bit more about your personal autonomy in a marriage. So these are little things that you don't really recognize until you've actually moved in and you've started living together for a while and that euphoric state has started to fade away. You're going to find that you are the subject of a lot of criticism. For whatever reason, your wife's happiness is going to be dependent on your behaviors. And I don't know why that is, but I know that it is true. So if you're wearing the wrong clothes, the wrong cologne, you don't shave, you do shave, any number of things that you do that you don't even think about now are going to affect her ability to live happily in that life. And the more of those things that accumulate that you're doing as a free-thinking, independent human being who is not employed to make another human being happy, the more things that you do that are not making her happy are going to lead to your separation and divorce. Ironically, the woman marries a guy that she admires and she wants to spend the rest of her life with. And then once they move in together, within a few years, she's changing him and shaping him into something that she's never going to like, that she's not going to want to be with anymore. This happens over and over and over again. All right, so let's start talking about some of the real day-to-day life things that just drive you crazy. So if you're a guy and you're getting married, you're thinking about saying I do, a lot of the decision making is going to be taken out of your hands. And I'm not being sarcastic here, it's just the way it works. So you're getting ready to buy a house. You guys have been shopping around for houses. You'll be surprised at just how much more likely it is she's going to get her dream house than you're going to get yours. The same thing goes for cars. It's much more likely that you're going to end up with a car that you're not necessarily completely satisfied with, and she's going to get one that fits exactly what she's looking for. Don't know why this happens, it just happens. This is just the way life is when you're married. Small decisions that seem like they're innocuous. These are things that you wouldn't think are going to make that big a difference, but they kind of add up. It's like everything around the house that needs someone's opinion about, or there's a choice to be made. It seems like those choices all land in her favor. That's why men tend to isolate themselves in sheds and basements and take up hobbies that isolate them even further from their wives and their family, because they just want some place where they have some control. You know, that's why these guys build these model railroads and turn into woodworkers. It's not necessarily that they have an affinity for railroads or wood. It's just they want a space where they can occupy their own lives and have some say about what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And just to have time to hear your own thoughts. So let's say you're going to have some kids. So here's the next thing. You'll be surprised at how strongly your partner feels about raising children. If you have any opinions or ideas about the way children should be managed, your wife is probably going to override that very, very quickly. It's unlikely that your opinion is going to be taken seriously. And it's very likely that you're going to be forced to a position where you're having to back her up in child-rearing decisions that you probably don't agree with completely. Now, it's fine when they're babies, it doesn't make that big a difference, but when they start to become, preteens and teens, these issues become much, much bigger. And as they become adults, they become bigger yet, especially if you have daughters. Oh my gosh. Mothers and daughters just are, I don't know what that relationship is when they become teenagers, but in every one that I've ever seen, there is an issue. And I don't want to go too deep into that for obvious reasons. I have some daughters. But yeah, there's some serious issues when it comes to child rearing that you need to be aware of that you probably are not thinking about right now. All right, let's talk a little bit about autonomy. So right now, as a single guy, you have your autonomy. You can come and go as you please. If you want to stay out late with your friends, you can do that. If you want to sleep in the next day, you can do that. If you decide you want to change jobs, you can do that. It can be everything from which movie are we going to see, to which vacation we're going to go on, to which neighborhood we're going to live in. You have a lot of autonomy. But once you get married, you're going to lose a lot, if not all, of that autonomy. That autonomy will be a thing of the past. Now you have to really consider all of the things that you enjoy doing in your life and how are those things going to fit in with this new relationship. So when you're single, you eat what you want, when you want, where you want. You travel where you want, with whom you want, and when you want. When you're married, all those decisions are taken out of your hands. You're going to have to either compromise or argue over everything, or do what most men do, and that is just surrender to the fact that she's going to make all these decisions. And I think that over time, losing that ability to have control of your own life and basically surrendering it to your spouse, to your wife, is what leads most men to a condition where a divorce is more likely to happen. Because we just don't feel like we're human or independent or like we're ourselves anymore. I think that's what it boils down to. So, my advice to you, if you're considering marriage, don't. Or if you do get married, you definitely need to have a legally binding prenuptial agreement that will determine how things happen if and or when a divorce occurs. It's like life insurance. You don't get life insurance because you hope you're going to die. You get life insurance because it's a reasonable possibility that you will. Think of the prenup like that. And that's the way you explain it to her. It's not a precursor to your evil, diabolical plan to leave her high and dry. It's just to have a plan in place so that if things go wrong, since half of them do go bad, you've got a plan to implement to split things up and for you guys to go back to living your old lives. So I just want to make it clear that I am not anti-marriage. I just think a lot of people make big decisions when they're intellectually compromised because they are under the influence of romantic love, which is as intense as any drug you can take. And then they make really big mistakes and they end up paying for those mistakes with the quality of their life for the rest of their life. And it's a tragedy that doesn't get nearly enough attention. And I think it's one that more people need to consider before they jump into a legally binding contract that says that now the state has some control and design over how you are to conduct your personal affairs. I guess that's my point. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you can take something away from it that's helpful. Please like and subscribe so that more people can see these videos. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a good one. Stay healthy. And if you can, stay single.